Welcome to JK Tells a Story, where real-life dramas unfold. Sit back and enjoy today's tale. Sitting in the Atlanta airport, Rob Mitchell thought it wasn't the most enjoyable way to spend an evening. He observed the boarding process for what he hoped would be his flight back home to Savannah. Rob, along with his two sisters, owned a small construction company their father had established decades earlier. His father had built strong relationships with local developers and contractors over the decades, which kept the company profitable but limited to the Savannah area. With his parents gone, Rob had spent the past few days in Atlanta negotiating the company's sale to a major construction firm. Today, Rob and his team of lawyers and brokers finalized the deal, leaving the paperwork to the attorneys. Rob hoped to make it home tonight, but it seemed unlikely. The last flight to Savannah for the day was fully booked, and he was third on the standby list. He refrained from calling his wife Sarah, unsure of what to tell her. He sat at the bar, keeping an eye on the gate, sipping his second gin and tonic, contemplating the deal and the substantial sum, over $10 million, that he and his sisters would share. This windfall, along with a well-compensated transition period with the major firm, promised a new lifestyle for him and Sarah. Their twin daughters were already away at college, juniors at the University of Georgia, where tuition costs were draining his finances. But all that would change once the construction deal was finalized. Meanwhile, the boarding process concluded, and gate agents began ushering the last passengers onto the plane. Then, a stroke of luck, the status on the boarding sign changed, and Rob noticed his name move up the standby list. He threw some cash on the bar, gave a thumbs up to the bartender, grabbed his briefcase and duffel bag, and dashed for the exit. At the gate, an agent handed him his boarding pass and quickly explained, "A group of 4 who checked in remotely didn't show up, so you and 2 others are getting their seats." Rob hurried down the jet bridge with his newfound companions and, upon reaching his seat, realized it was in first class. A good omen, he thought. "I made the flight. I'm heading home a day early, in first class. Maybe this means good things are coming our way." As the boarding door closed and the plane taxied, he felt he deserved another drink. He had another gin and tonic and then dozed off, dreaming of a future where he and Sarah could always fly first class. The jolt of landing woke him. Eventually, he reached the taxi stand for the ride home. A few days earlier, he had driven his pickup truck to the airport, but now, exhausted and a little tipsy, it was too late to call Sarah to pick him up. They lived a few miles outside Savannah, so the cab ride gave him enough time to nod off again. The driver had to wake him when they arrived. Rob paid the fare generously, got out of the taxi a bit groggy, and as he turned toward the house, what he saw stopped him in his tracks and fully woke him up. A gold Lexus parked in front of his side of the garage. It looked like a very stylish Lexus, but then again, all luxury cars seemed stylish to him. The house had fallen into darkness. It was well past midnight, and Rob stood motionless for several minutes. He had spoken to Sarah from his lawyer's office around noon, and she hadn't mentioned anything about unexpected visitors so late. Trying to push away unthinkable thoughts, he envisioned a happy scenario where he could soon curl up with a warm, sleepy Sarah, but his mind wouldn't cooperate. Slowly, he made his way through the passage between the garage and the house, unlocked the door, and entered the silent home. With deliberate steps, he moved through the kitchen and up the stairs to their bedroom, where the door stood ajar, seemingly unprepared for guests. Rob stepped inside. Then it happened. There was no other way to describe it. His mind went blank, his breathing halted, even his heart seemed to stop beating. He witnessed what he could only imagine as unthinkable. Sarah lay undressed, sprawled on her side of the bed, one arm wrapped around another man who slept beside her, a faint smile on his lips. Rob stood there for what felt like an eternity. Eventually, his mind started to function again. He glanced at Sarah's hand resting on the man, and they both breathed softly. This shattered Rob's heart. Until tonight, he had found solace in listening to Sarah's gentle breathing, a comforting sound that meant she felt secure in the peaceful sleep they shared. He often fell asleep to that gentle rhythm, but now that was all gone. He would never hear that sound again, never share a bed with her. Despite his broken heart, Rob began to think rationally. He noticed the man's neatly folded clothes on a chair where Rob had sat countless times. Anger simmered inside him. He pulled on his pants, retrieved his wallet and car keys, and paused to consider his next move. Thoughts of grabbing a baseball bat from the bedroom closet and confronting the man crossed his mind. He even contemplated confronting Sarah. Both impulses promised immediate satisfaction but threatened severe consequences. Another idea took shape in his mind. He pulled out his cell phone and started taking incriminating photos. As the plan developed, Rob finished documenting the scene and gathered the man's clothes and shoes. The man was much larger than Rob, taller and heavier. A baseball bat wouldn't be wise even in the short term. With the clothes in hand, Rob stole one last glance at his wife, his once beloved partner and mother of their daughters, and steeled himself against the love that had sustained him for over 2 decades. He left the bedroom dry-eyed and descended the stairs. Outside, the car's key fob beeped, and the doors of the Lexus opened. Rob stowed his briefcase and duffel bag inside before settling into the driver's seat. He had never been one for fancy cars, but as he maneuvered the Lexus, he found himself appreciating it. After driving a mile, Rob pulled over and examined the man's wallet. It contained the usual items: cash, business cards identifying him as Derek Williams, a senior sales manager at a local luxury car dealership, and a driver's license with the Savannah address. If the man had a family, Rob realized he could cause significant trouble for him, and perhaps for Sarah too. But for now, exhausted, Rob decided to head to the nearest motel to get some rest. Sarah Elizabeth Bennett was a highly cautious person. Aware of her husband Rob's greater intelligence, she had managed to sustain an affair with Derek Williams for nearly 5 months without Rob suspecting a thing. Rob is still in Atlanta, she thought the next morning while lying in bed with Derek. He satisfied her physically, though not quite as well as Rob, she reflected. Too much like a car salesman, she mused, deciding it was time to end the affair. Derek's growing possessiveness, including his desire to spend the night, had crossed a line. Despite Rob's likely ignorance of the situation, having another man in their marital bed felt too disrespectful. She planned to call Derek later that day and firmly but kindly end things, then headed for the shower. As she dressed back in the bedroom, Derek emerged from the shower wrapped in a towel. He paused, then asked, "Sarah, where did my clothes go?" "What? I didn't move anything," she replied. "I left them folded on this chair, they're gone." "Did you take them to the guest room?" She began, but he hurried down the hall and returned empty-handed. "No, they're not there. They're nowhere," Derek said frantically. Sarah impatiently suggested, "Maybe you left them downstairs last night after we came in." "No, I'm sure I didn't, but I'll go check," Derek said, leaving the room and quickly returning. Sarah, my car's gone too. Someone was here, took my clothes and stole my car." "What's happening?" Sarah struggled to grasp the situation. How could his clothes and car vanish when they'd been home all night? Could someone have broken in? She sank onto the bed, and Derek asked, "What's wrong?" Sarah tried to speak, her breath catching. "Derek, what if it was Rob?" she finally managed. "What if he came back from Atlanta while we were asleep and took your things and your car?" Derek muttered, collapsing beside her. "We need to find out where he is. Could be him, but if he's still in Atlanta, then it's a break-in. We have to call the police. I need my stuff and my car back. Oh damn, this car. If we involve the police, they'll ask whose car it is, and it's in my wife's name for some tax reason." His voice trailed off, imagining the potential fallout from bad to catastrophic. "I'll call his office. His secretary gets in very early, so she should know where he is." Sarah pulled out her phone and dialed Rob's office number. Despite the early hour, Rob's secretary answered promptly. "Mitchell Construction. How can I assist you?" "Hey Sheila, it's Sarah. I know it's early, and I'm not sure where Rob is. He didn't call last night. Have you heard from him?" "Hi Sarah. It's still early here. The team in Atlanta worked late yesterday, so they'll probably start late today. I spoke with Rob around 6 yesterday evening before I left. He mentioned they had finalized the deal and would be wrapping up the paperwork today. That's good to hear. So he's still in Atlanta, right? She asked. Yes, I'm certain he is. I expect to hear from him once they're back at the lawyer's office. Should I have him call you? Yes, please, but only if he has a moment. I know how crucial this deal is, she replied. Understood. Bye, she said, and they hung up. Sarah turned to Derek. Rob is still in Atlanta, so we should call the police and report a break-in and car theft. Sarah, what do we tell them? That your lover had his clothes stolen from your bedroom and his car stolen from your driveway? What the hell? This is a disaster, Derek exclaimed. Okay, I get it. Let's think this through. How about I drop you off at home, and you report the theft as happening there while your wife was taking the kids to school? Maybe skip the stolen clothes. Those would be harder to explain than a missing car, she suggested. Yeah. Except yesterday I told my wife I was going to Atlanta for a meeting on the new luxury car line and wouldn't be home until noon, he said. Okay, we can wait until noon. When you're back, you drove home, left your keys in the car for a quick stop before going to the dealership, and your car was stolen while you were inside, she proposed. You know, I think that could work. I could also say my wallet was in the car and got stolen. We can hang out here for a few hours, maybe take another shower together, Derek said with a suggestive tone. Derek, she responded, her tone serious. Okay, yeah. I need to call work to take a sick day, he said, realizing the gravity of the situation. Sarah, who worked as a paralegal in a small law firm, found the job somewhat dull. She stepped into the hallway to make a call, and when she returned, she found Derek back in bed. Tempted, she thought of Rob and her recent decision to end the affair, ultimately deciding to decline. Derek, she said, making no move to undress. I think it's time to end this. We've had our fun, but last night it could have been Rob. We're fortunate it was just a burglar. Let's find some clothes and maybe grab breakfast somewhere. Derek looked at her, briefly considered arguing, but ultimately realized she was right. They had been lucky but shouldn't push their luck. Yes, he agreed, inwardly recalling with a slight smile another attractive middle-aged mother who often visited the car dealership. Okay, I agree. It's been good. So how about some clothes? Proved more challenging than expected. Derek was much heavier and taller than Rob. Eventually, Sarah managed to find a pair of worn-out sweatpants that fit Derek somewhat, fashioning makeshift adjustments with strings to hold them up. She also unearthed a faded sweatshirt, now tinged pink from a sloppy wash, which she further modified with trimmed sleeves and widened armholes. Despite wanting to make a remark about the outfit resembling clown attire, she only smiled faintly at Derek's expression. They decided to pass the time watching TV until it was time to head to Derek's house. Earlier that morning, around the time Derek discovered his missing clothes and car, Rob arrived at the address listed on Derek's driver's license. It was a pleasant house with a small bicycle leaning against the garage wall. Rob sat in his car, contemplating, wondering, still devoid of tears. His night at the motel had passed swiftly, and he hadn't slept much until dawn. Surprisingly, he didn't feel worse. Perhaps he was still in shock. He approached the front door, holding Derek's wallet with the driver's license visible. He rang the bell, and a young woman in her 20s, attractive yet somewhat disheveled, answered. Rob wore a suit purchased the previous day in Atlanta, now rumpled, white shirt and no tie. Despite not looking his best, he hoped not to appear threatening. He held up Derek's driver's license for her to see and gestured towards the gold Lexus. Before he could speak, the woman slammed the door shut, then reopened it moments later with her cell phone in hand. I have 911 ready to dial. Tell me my husband is okay. Ma'am, I have a photo on my phone of your husband and my wife in bed last night, both undressed and fast asleep. Honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with your husband or mine. If you want to call 911, go ahead. I'll wait in the car. They stared at each other until her expression softened, and she opened the door, beginning to say something when a voice from the kitchen interrupted with, Mommy, wait here. I'll be right back, she said, turning towards what Rob presumed was the kitchen. He heard voices, hers and at least one child's, before she returned with a cup of coffee for him. I hope you take it black. I need to get the kids ready for school and drop them off. Honestly, I trust you more than my husband right now. You can wait here until I get back, and then we can talk. Sure, okay, Rob replied. Seems we're both in a similar situation. He settled into the living room, and soon the woman reappeared with 2 children, introducing him as Dad's friend before leaving with them. Rob sat quietly, sipping the mediocre coffee, contemplating calling his office but ultimately remaining seated. When she returned, she hurried upstairs briefly and returned looking more composed, her hair brushed and lips lightly tinted. She extended her hand to Rob. Sorry for the chaos earlier. I'm Molly Williams, currently married to Derek Williams, who happens to be involved with your wife. Rob couldn't help but chuckle at her phrasing. A brief moment of relief. You've summed up the situation perfectly. I'm Rob Mitchell, and my wife's name is Sarah Bennett. Let me explain what happened last night. As Rob recounted the events, Molly began to cry. I'm filing for divorce from Sarah, and these photos will certainly help with the settlement. I can send them to your phone if you think you might need them. Yes, please keep them, Molly replied, her eyes dull. Rob started to reach for his phone but paused as Molly continued. Hold on. I don't want those images burned into my memory forever. You keep them, and if I ever need them, I'll call you. Okay? Of course, Rob agreed, adding, I probably won't be staying at my current job or home for much longer. Here's my lawyer's contact information. Feel free to reach out if you need the photos or any assistance with divorce proceedings. Thank you, Molly said. But what should we do now? Are you returning the car? Waiting for Derek to confront him? He's a big guy despite putting on some weight. Supposedly, he was in Atlanta for a car meeting overnight and should be back this afternoon. You know, I'm rather fond of this car, and I've never driven a Lexus before. I think I'll keep it until someone insists otherwise. As for your husband, let's just call him Idiot for now. He may have. Molly chuckled, and Rob joined in, both needing the release. Actually, the car is registered in my name, Molly disclosed. For tax reasons, more depreciation, I think. Derek, or should I say Idiot, put it in my name since I use it more. She paused thoughtfully before continuing. Since it's my car, I can give you permission to drive it, and if you get stopped, the police can call me to verify. Rob appreciated the plan but held back, sensing Molly was still refining it. And one more thing, she added. There have been a lot of burglaries in our neighborhood lately. You have Derek's keys and clothes. If the spare key we hide in the backyard is missing when he arrives, he might attempt to break in. And if our security system is set to instant alert mode, he'll attract some unwanted police attention. Molly, I think I'm falling for you all over again. You're amazing. Okay, let's stay calm. Derek can wait until this afternoon when the kids and I get home from school. I'll pick them up and take them to the park for a while. Let's give him more time to get into even more trouble. Whatever happens, keep me updated, especially if he gets into trouble with the police, and call me when you need to return the car. I don't want you getting into any trouble. We're good now, you need to get going, so do I. Rob drove off in the splendid gold Lexus, pondering how much the same model in a better color might cost. Molly handed him the permission slip, and he assumed she would retrieve the hidden key, set the alarm, and be gone for the rest of the day. Meanwhile, Sarah and Derek arrived at his house around noon. She dropped him off hastily, as if avoiding an infection, and he approached his front door, hoping it might be unlocked because Molly was home but also fearing her presence. It was, of course, locked. He hurried around to the backyard rock where they kept the spare key, only to find it missing. Oh crap, he muttered, scanning the back of the house, considering breaking in. He attempted the back door, but it too was locked. Left with little choice, he contemplated breaking a window along the rear wall, opting for the family room window due to its size. He broke off a branch from a tree for leverage. Barefoot, he needed a way to avoid the broken glass. Grabbing 2 chairs from the porch, he positioned them beneath the window, planning to climb over them carefully into the living room. Taking a few deep breaths, he prepared himself. Derek tossed the branch through the family room window, which shattered satisfyingly, followed by the blaring of the home alarm system. A stroke of bad luck compounded by a passing police car. Earlier that morning, Molly had alerted the police about potential break-ins in the neighborhood. Damn it! Damn it! Derek cursed, scrambling over the chairs to enter the house and disable the security system. But he wasn't quick enough. Police! Stop right there and slowly step away from the house. Hands up! An officer commanded. Derek glanced back, seeing 2 officers with drawn pistols. He complied, managing to scrape his legs as he descended from the chairs and backed away. Officers, I can explain, he began, but one of them swiftly handcuffed him, ignoring his attempt to clarify. His rights were read aloud, and he was asked if he wanted to make a statement. Yes, this is my house and I didn't have a key, so I broke in to get some clothes and call my office, Derek explained. The officers eyed Derek's ill-fitting tracksuit, perhaps thinking it resembled clown clothes, and one asked for identification. No, not on me right now. You see, I lost my car and all my clothes, so I just needed to get inside to find some real clothes, Derek continued. How did you lose your car, sir? One officer asked. Well, I stayed at a friend's place last night and this morning the car wasn't there, Derek stammered. It just disappeared? Have you reported it missing? Maybe you left it somewhere? The officer pressed. Derek hesitated. He didn't want to reveal his whereabouts or why he hadn't reported the car missing, but going to jail for trying to enter his own home was also not appealing, especially with the uncomfortable handcuffs. Then an idea struck him. You could call my wife. She can confirm who I am, and maybe you could take me to my office. Someone there can help me get some clothes. Knowing that dealing with dealership drama was preferable to jail, Derek gave Molly's phone number to one of the officers, who called her. Derek could hear part of the conversation. Ma'am, this is Officer Riley from the Savannah Police Department. We're at the address he provided. We have a man here claiming to be your husband. He attempted to break into your house because he lost his clothes and... Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, we will, of course, do that. Thank you, ma'am. The officer turned back to Derek. The lady says her husband is in Atlanta, and anyone breaking into her house must be a burglar. She hopes we throw you in jail and toss away the key. But... Derek was nearly in tears as the officers escorted him to their patrol car to take him to the station. Meanwhile, Sarah arrived at her office half a day later, but determined to catch up, with thoughts of Rob still on her mind. She tried calling his cell phone but received no answer. She then dialed his office number again. Hello, Sheila. It's Sarah again. I'm starting to get a little worried about Rob, since I still haven't heard anything from him. Have you heard anything? Sarah asked. No updates yet. He's likely still in Atlanta with the lawyers, but it's unusual for him not to call. Since you're concerned, I'll check on him and get back to you shortly, Sheila replied. All right, thank you, Sheila. You're the best secretary ever, Sarah said. A few minutes later, Sarah received a call back. Sarah, it's Sheila. I spoke with a secretary at the law office. Rob left late yesterday, hoping to catch the last flight to Savannah. I called him, and he asked me to let you know he'll call you later. Okay, thanks, Sheila. Thanks, Sarah said, a pit forming in her stomach. Meanwhile, Rob drove the gold Lexus to a divorce lawyer recommended by Fred Thomas, his longtime business attorney. Trusting Fred's referral, he hoped for the best. Mr. Mitchell, please have a seat. Miss Richardson will be with you shortly, the secretary informed him. Rob settled in, finding some comfort in the lawyer's office, neither extravagant nor cheap. Before worry could set in, a middle-aged woman with graying hair entered. Mr. Mitchell? Rob nodded as she introduced herself. I'm Anna Richardson. Fred spoke highly of you, so let's discuss your situation in my office. They moved to her office, where Rob accepted coffee from the secretary and began his story, discovering his wife's infidelity, seeking a divorce, and protecting his assets, notably from his and his sister's company sale. He omitted the incident with Derek's belongings, unsure how Anna would react. Rob, may I call you that? Anna asked. Rob agreed, and she continued. Here's some relatively good news given your circumstances. Fred mentioned your ownership of the company before marriage, making those shares separate property. Your wife has no claim on them or their proceeds. Keep them separate from any joint accounts. Understand? I believe so, Rob replied. What about our home, retirement accounts, and such? Well, it's less favorable there, Anna explained. Given your higher income, expect alimony for several years. We might mitigate contributions to retirement by adjusting alimony. It's not ideal, but it avoids future issues, especially splitting retirement funds. Your kids are college-bound, so no child support there. You okay with covering their college expenses? Yes, that works, Rob confirmed. What about the house? You and your wife need to decide. You can sell it and split the proceeds, or one of you can buy out the other based on its current appraised value, Anna responded. After what I witnessed last night, I definitely don't want this house anymore. I doubt Sarah can afford to buy my share, so selling it seems like the best option, Rob decided. All right, I'll prepare the necessary paperwork accordingly. The divorce petition is fairly standard, so I can have it ready for you early tomorrow. If you'd like, we can serve it to her tomorrow afternoon and propose a settlement next week, Anna said. Wow, that's pretty quick. Rob started. Rob, listen to me. If there's any chance for reconciliation, perhaps counseling or some time, Anna suggested. No, it's just a shock. Right now, less than 24 hours ago, I was happy, eager to share news of the company sale with my wife. Now I'm here discussing divorce. But we have to move forward. I'll figure out how to handle this. Okay? Rob said, trying to steady himself. If you change your mind, just give me a call, and we can reassess, Anna offered. Rob thanked her, settled the fee, and left the office. Walking back to the gold Lexus, he wondered about the events with the man he saw last night. It reminded him he had promised his secretary to call Sarah. Sarah answered in her law firm office. Sarah, it's Rob. You called and were looking for me. Oh, Rob, thanks for calling. I missed you. Where are you? Sarah asked. I'm here in Savannah, Rob replied. Rob, when did you get back? The pit in her stomach twisted. Last night, Sarah. I got back last night, Rob said. The pit grew heavier. Sarah leaned back, struggling to breathe, let alone speak. Rob, I think I should hang up, she said. No, Sarah, please, Rob said. Can we meet somewhere? I need to see you, just for a few minutes. Rob hesitated. This woman was his love, the mother of his daughters, the most significant person in his life for over 20 years. Okay, Sarah. Center Cafe at 6. The pain intensified. Sarah reluctantly agreed. The Center Cafe held sentimental value. They had first met there with friends long ago. Over time, it became their special place. Now she felt anxious. Rob had suggested it, and she had to agree. Rob, I'll be there, and please understand I'm sorry and I love you, Sarah said, her voice breaking. Rob hung up. Sarah sat, tears streaming, the pain deepening. Sarah arrived early at the cafe. Rob hadn't arrived yet. She ordered a glass of wine and reflected on her self-perception. Her initial experiences were with robust football players in college. Although she had flirted in high school, it was the football players who had made her feel vulnerable, holding her down. When Rob came into her life, she thought she had overcome those feelings. He was everything she needed, strong, loving, a great father, a good provider. That should have been enough. But on the flight back from the West Coast, everything changed. Rob was on a business trip pitching a new building project to a development company, and she had accompanied him for the weekend. Flying back alone on an overnight flight, she sat next to a burly man, the coach of a local football team. They chatted, drank too much, and she fell asleep with her head on his shoulder. She woke to find his hand where it shouldn't have been. Now, reflecting on that night, she knew she should have reacted differently, but she didn't. And the guilt, the absence of it, troubled her. She only felt relief when Rob returned later that week, and she had recovered physically and emotionally. The coach left after one season, but not before introducing her to a player from the practice squad. He wasn't a star, but like the coach, he was dominating in ways that appealed to her darker desires. She felt grateful when he was transferred elsewhere. Eventually, guilt surfaced, and she ended the affair, wanting to remain faithful to Rob. She thought she had put her infidelity behind her by the time their daughters left for college. She cherished her renewed bond with Rob during this period. Then Rob surprised her with a generous gift, a new luxury car of her choice. Unfortunately, she chose to visit the Lexus dealership, where she met Derek Williams. He didn't just sell her a car. He seduced her. She knew it was wrong, compounded by the fact that Derek wasn't even particularly skilled. Despite her previous indiscretions, she believed her marriage was strong. Now she loved Rob more than ever and wanted to be faithful. It was the right thing. Allowing Derek into their marital bed was a mistake, even before Rob found out. Now she feared the consequences she might have to face. "Hello, Sarah." Rob's voice pulled her gaze up to see him standing there. He appeared visibly aged since his return from Atlanta, a change she blamed herself for. The serpent in her gut continued to coil and bite. "Hi, Rob. Thank you for being here. I don't even know where to begin to express how sorry I am. Can I ask you a few questions?" he asked, taking a seat. "Oh, Rob, please no. If we have any chance, questions and answers will only destroy that chance. Rob, we should run away for a few days, to a Caribbean island where we can reconnect, hold each other, where—" "Sarah, please, you're not seeing clearly. If you can't answer my questions, I'll leave right now." The snake continued to torment her, but Sarah knew she had to endure the pain and let Rob express his anger however he needed. Perhaps, just perhaps, he could find a way through his rage to some form of reconciliation. "Okay, Rob, ask me anything. Do you know what time I got home last night?" Peculiar question, she thought. No, not exactly. It had to be after." She trailed off, knowing his next question already. "And do you know what I found when I got home? When I went upstairs to our bedroom, or should I say, what used to be our bedroom?" "Yes, Rob. I know what you must have seen, and I know it must have been one of the worst things you've ever seen in your life. And I know it's entirely my fault that you saw this, and I'm begging you, please listen to me. Rob, I'm so sorry that I won't fight the divorce you want if you want." "Shut up, Sarah. Next question. How many men have there been since we got married? If you lie, if I think you're lying, I'm leaving." Sarah's first instinct was to lie. Then she realized it was too risky. Finally, she concluded that the marriage was likely over anyway. "3, Rob. 3 men whom I now deeply regret ever meeting. I can see in your eyes that our marriage is over, and I understand you deserve someone better than me. I'm willing to do almost anything to give us another chance, but I understand if you want nothing to do with me anymore. Call a lawyer, Sarah. Tomorrow you will be served with divorce papers." Rob stood up and left. Sarah sat there, initially too stunned to cry. As she processed what Rob had just said, the pain in her stomach intensified, and she began to cry. Rob walked out of the cafe, reflecting on how he and Sarah had first met there decades ago. He wondered if this would be their last meaningful conversation. Closeness, he thought bitterly, had become a curse. Hearing her confess to being with other men, and seeing her with Derek in their bed. In their bed, for God's sake. How would he ever get over this? Maybe he could handle knowing about 3 nameless men over their 20-odd years together with some counseling and a lot of groveling on her part. Maybe. But he would never get over that scene in their bed. Their marriage was finished. Sitting in that gold Lexus, he finally cried. As darkness fell, Rob blew his nose, wiped his face, and remembered what Molly Williams had said that morning, which now felt like a year ago. She had told him not to send her the pictures of her husband cheating, believing it would be harder to forgive with visual evidence. Rob decided to call her, share this thought, and check on the situation with the car. "Hello." Molly answered the call. "Molly, it's Rob Mitchell from this morning. Just checking in to see how you're doing and what to do with the car." "Rob, thanks for calling. I'm managing. You can keep the car for now. Derek is in so much trouble he won't need it for a while." "Trouble? I hope you didn't." "No, but he might have preferred that. He got arrested for trying to break into our house and took a swing at one of the cops. He's a big guy, and the cops shot him with a stun weapon. Then something happened while he was in jail. He doesn't want to talk about it, but I think he might have been attacked by another prisoner. I refused to speak to him, so he had to call his brother to post bail. Now his whole family knows what's going on. Wow, Molly. I can't say I feel sorry for him, but I do feel sorry for you. I wanted to tell you that you made the right decision this morning not to look at the pictures of him cheating. If you have any chance of reconciliation, those photos would make it a lot harder. Yeah, he came home a couple of hours ago, crying, apologizing, and begging me to let him stay, at least for now. We have 2 little kids, so I'm going to try to work things out. But life won't be easy for him. His own brother, a lawyer, told me to push for a postnuptial agreement and offered to help. Plus, I'll be managing our finances for a while. Derek will be on a short leash, and I'll be tugging his collar often. Stay strong, Molly. I wish you all the best. When you need to return the car, just call me. They hung up, and Rob sat there feeling a bit envious of Molly. Maybe Derek had learned his lesson. Being arrested and charged with assaulting a police officer, combined with his experience in jail, might have frightened him significantly. Rob hoped so, for Molly's and their children's sake. Finally, he drove back to the motel where he was staying. He had one more task before trying to sleep: calling his daughters. "Hi, Daddy." It seemed like Ashley had answered. They were twins, not identical, but close enough that they sounded alike and attended the same expensive college, both studying nursing. At least they didn't look exactly alike. Similar and clearly sisters, but not obviously twins. Rob often admitted to himself that he was glad they weren't identical. They were already skilled at ganging up on him, and it would be even harder if 2 identical young women were persuading him to buy a car, stay out late, or give them money for a spring break trip to Florida. "Daddy, please." But he also admitted, again only to himself, that he enjoyed spoiling them. "Ashley?" "Yes, you guessed right. Of course, there was a 50-50 chance." "What's up?" "Listen, tomorrow is Saturday, and I'd like to invite you and your sister for breakfast. Well, let's call it brunch. Maybe around 11 or so at that bistro on Bull Street we used to go to." That works for me." "Hold on a second." He heard some noise, and then she came back. "And Morgan is good with it too. Can we?" He quickly interrupted her because at their last brunch, 6 or 7 of their friends had shown up. "Let's make it just the 3 of us. Okay?" "Of course," Ashley replied. "But tell me what?" Again, he cut her off, not wanting to have a difficult conversation over the phone, which was challenging even in person. "Listen, I have to go. See you at 11. Love you, and tell your sister I love her too. Bye." He hung up, hoping she wouldn't call Sarah, but knowing he couldn't tell her that. Otherwise, she would have called Sarah immediately. 11 o'clock tomorrow morning would come soon enough. After Rob left the cafe, leaving Sarah with his warning to hire a lawyer, her tears were uncontrollable. She knew she had ruined everything. Her marriage, her family, her entire life. She realized her daughters would find out, her parents would know, and all her friends would learn about it. She would likely lose Rob and her home. And poor Rob, seeing her in their bed with Derek, the image must have nearly destroyed him. Her tears continued to flow. Eventually, the waitress came over and asked if she needed to go to the ladies' room. Sarah choked back her sobs and managed to say, "No, thank you." She paid the bill and left, heading back to the house that would soon no longer be hers. When she got there, she found some gin, just the wrong amount, not enough to make her pass out, but too much to help her figure out how to get Rob back. After drinking it all, she fell asleep, hoping for a miracle that would bring Rob back to her. Rob was sitting in the bistro at 11 the next morning when his daughters walked in. He had reviewed and approved the draft divorce petition early that morning, then drove 4 hours from Savannah, using the drive to figure out how to break the news to Ashley and Morgan. Initially, everything seemed normal. Hugs and kisses, questions about school and work. They ordered and ate their food, had their plates cleared, and then finally the real conversation began. "Dad, we know something is wrong," Morgan started. "You look a bit unwell. Are you here to tell us you have cancer or something? And if so, where is Mom?" "Girls, I do have really bad news. But it's not physical. No one is dying. It's about Mom. She did something terrible, didn't she? Ashley interrupted. Oh my God. Did she? Is she having an affair or something? Ashley's guess hit too close to home. Both girls stared at their father's grim expression, the levity quickly draining from the moment. Dad, no, not Mom, no, Morgan said, her expression changing to concern. Girls, your mother has been having an affair. I found them together at our house the night before last. I'm filing for divorce. The silence that followed was deafening. Both daughters stared at him in shock, their faces cycling through disbelief, anger, and sadness. An affair? Mom? Are you sure? Ashley whispered. I'm very sure. I saw them together. Morgan, always the more practical one, asked, what happens now? To you, to us, to everything? Well, I'll probably sell the house and move somewhere smaller. You girls will continue college, that won't change. Your mother and I will work out the details through lawyers. Dad, Ashley said, tears starting to form. How are you doing with all this? Really? Rob considered the question seriously. You know what? I think I'm going to be okay. Maybe not right away, but eventually. This whole situation has made me realize something. I've spent my entire adult life taking care of other people. First my parents, then the business, then your mother, then you girls. And I love doing it, don't get me wrong. But maybe it's time I focused on taking care of myself for a while. What does that mean? Morgan asked. I'm not sure yet. The company sale went through, so I have some financial freedom. Maybe I'll travel. Maybe I'll try some of those things I always said I'd do someday. Maybe I'll learn to climb mountains, take up sailing, go on safari. Maybe I'll even meet someone new eventually. The twins exchanged glances. This didn't sound like their cautious, responsible father. Dad, Ashley said carefully, you're not having some kind of midlife crisis, are you? Rob laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd had in days. Maybe I am. But if I am, maybe that's exactly what I need. Your mother's betrayal has taught me that life can change in an instant, and maybe I shouldn't wait for someday to live the life I really want. We won't let you down, Morgan said. But what about you? Will you be okay? What are you going to do? Well, you can think about a lot during a 4-hour drive. First, I want you both to know that what you said doesn't surprise me at all. I know you'll continue to do well in school, and I will continue to be proud of you. As for me, what your mother did slapped me hard. I could crawl into a hole, suffer, feel sorry for myself, and try to reconcile with your mom, but I realized that doesn't suit me. I've spent my entire adult life taking care of others. When I started working for my father's company, I took care of him. After he left, I took care of my sisters as they owned their shares in the company. Then I took care of your mother, and I took care of you girls. It might sound like I'm complaining, but I'm not. The company has been sold, which relieves me of responsibility for my sisters. Sarah is gone, and you guys. I promise I'll be happy to help you start your adult lives. So what? 2 home runs out of 3 in terms of the women in my life. Not bad. That leaves me, and guess what? I see this whole situation with betrayal and divorce not as the worst thing, but as a chance to start a new life. A life dedicated to taking care of one person. Me. Fine, Dad, really. If you mean what you say, that's great, Morgan said. Ashley was more skeptical. Dad, what does all this really mean? New life? Working for another construction company? Buying a farm? What? Good question. I do have an answer. No details yet, but this new life will be physical. I'm going to run marathons, climb mountains, swim across lakes, climb the Alps, go on safari. I have a million things I'm going to do, and guess what? While doing these things, I might meet a nice woman doing the same activities. Who knows? Damn it, Dad. This is amazing. Both girls looked at him, astonished. This was their father, not some enterprising adventurer. Did you really come up with all this while driving here from Savannah? Ashley asked. Well, yes, partly. Besides, I didn't sleep much, and different ideas were spinning in my head. I mean, I could start drinking and feeling sorry for myself, but instead, I'm going to make the best of this mess. Trust me, I'll be fine. Rob left his daughters with more hugs, kisses, and tears, then headed back to Savannah in the gold Lexus. As soon as Rob left, the girls called their mother. "Hello?" A strained voice answered the phone at the Bennett house. Morgan put the call on speaker. "Mom, this is Morgan and Ashley. We just had breakfast with Dad, and he told us some terrible news." What did he say?" "Well, he mentioned divorce and said it was because of your betrayal. Dad gave us some details, but that's the gist." "Is this true?" "Oh, girls, this is complicated. He and I have been married for a long time, and this mistake, yes, I made a big mistake, well, more than one actually, but I'm sure we can get through it. I just need to give your father some time to." "Mom," Morgan interrupted. "Listen, Dad said divorce. He didn't talk about fixing things. He talked about cheating." "Well, yes, technically he's right, but that doesn't mean we can't fix it. I told him I would do anything." "Mom," Ashley interrupted. "I think you're delusional. He told us that he had already met with a divorce lawyer. He said there's no turning back for you two. Morgan and I don't want to take sides, but you have to face reality." They heard tormented breathing on the other end. Morgan and Ashley exchanged glances, wondering if they should have gone to Savannah. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I know I screwed up and ruined my marriage. I think your father hates me, and he's right. I've done awful things. He told me to hire a lawyer, and he was right about that too. I'm sorry, girls. I know it's terrible for you too." "Mom, don't worry about us," Morgan said. "We'll be fine, and I know Dad is doing everything he can. You need to take care of yourself. Hiring a lawyer is a good idea. Ashley and I can come to Savannah if you need us." "Thank you, girls. That's kind of you. I'll be okay. I just need time to come to terms with what I've done." They hung up, still unsure of their next steps. "You know," Morgan said, "it's funny, though it's not really funny. We're more worried about Mom, who caused all this mess, than about Dad." They continued talking and eventually decided not to go home, allowing their parents to deal with the situation without their interference. Sarah sat in her home in Savannah. A bit hungover from the gin she drank the night before and feeling very depressed. After talking to her daughters, she knew she had to get up, get dressed, and leave the house. Do something, she thought. Just as she considered buying more gin, the doorbell rang. Sarah opened the door to find a young woman standing there, chewing gum. "Can I help you?" Sarah asked. "Yes, ma'am. Are you Sarah Elizabeth Bennett, Robert Mitchell's wife?" "Why, yes, that's me. Why do you ask?" "Ma'am, you have been served," the woman said, handing Sarah a folder with documents and taking photographs. What? Sarah asked as the woman walked back to her car. Sarah returned to the kitchen table to look at the mysterious folder. When she saw the title of the first document, she nearly fainted. It was a petition for divorce. She remembered Rob's last words to her. "Get a lawyer." As she sat there staring at the familiar kitchen she had once enjoyed with Rob, she knew the happy days wouldn't return after what she had done. Sarah was right. She and Rob never reconciled after her betrayal. 6 years later, sitting in the ballroom of an expensive hotel and watching Ashley dance with her new husband, Sarah mentally plunged into the past. When the girls were teenagers, life seemed terrible. Too many activities, too much teenage angst, and boys who were either too mean or, in Sarah's view, too nice to the girls. Rob was too busy with his job, and her work as a paralegal was too boring. Life had been overwhelming then, but now she missed it terribly. She was still at the same law firm, doing the same mundane paperwork. "Sarah, here is your wine." Sarah looked at her date. A perfectly sweet, middle-aged, portly, balding lawyer who had escorted her to Ashley's wedding and reception. "The bride looks lovely, just like her mother," he said. "Thank you, Carl. You're sweet, and thanks for the wine." He was a kind man, and she could imagine marrying him if he was interested, but he definitely wasn't Rob. She couldn't help but glance across the room at Rob. Rob had just returned from a mountaineering trip to Nepal, and Sarah thought he looked like one of those bronze Greek god statues. Tanned, incredibly fit, even more handsome than she remembered. He was smiling and laughing with Morgan and her boyfriend, holding hands with a woman as beautiful and fit as he was. Morgan had told her that Rob met the woman on another mountaineering trip in South America, and they had been traveling, sailing, and climbing together for several months. Sarah felt sick just thinking about it. Sarah. Carl tried to get her attention. Yes, Carl? I think we should leave. You've fulfilled your duties as mother of the bride, and staying here drooling over your ex-husband isn't doing you any favors. And I dare say it's not very good for our relationship either. Carl, you're sweet, and you're absolutely right. Let me go say goodbye to my daughters, and we'll leave. Sarah hugged and kissed her daughters, wished the newlyweds all the best, and, as hard as it was, ignored Rob and his stunning girlfriend. Rob noticed Sarah leaving and felt a slight pang of sadness for their old times together. As he watched her, Morgan asked him a question. Sorry, sweetheart, what were you saying? Daddy, remember that gold Lexus you were driving when you came to have breakfast with us that morning near the university? What happened to that car? Ah, Morgan, that's a whole story I won't bore you with. Let's just say I borrowed that gold Lexus from a friend and ended up giving it back to her. I think she sold it. It was quite an unlucky car. And Rob turned to his companion to discuss their next mountain trip. Thank you for your viewing. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to JK Tells a Story for more tales.